Well, it's not time to throw up another story. So by now, everyone knows that I'm a student, and if any classmates are watching this, then congratulations, you get to know the full story. But if not, I'm gonna share it anyways, because I think it's very funny. So, the situation starts in English lesson. English lesson. When the teacher asked us to basically complete a worksheet, she insisted us to do it under 5 minutes. And for the ones who didn't, they would have to stand up, like basically in front of the whole class. And I think because it's an intimidation tactic, so it works brilliantly. But somehow, some people actually failed to do so and got stood up, and our teacher roasted them by some sort of gag, like, oh, when I used to be a student, when the teacher told us to finish this worksheet within the time period allowed, I for the blanks that I didn't finish, I would quickly fill it up and then avoid sitting down. So what happened here is that I didn't feel like it was a good call for the teacher, because first of all, it's unprofessional. You're being a teacher here, and you shouldn't like injustify your own profession. And yeah, so what in fact happened is that I calmly murmured a line. What a shame. I mean, I didn't speak it out loud, like in front of the class, but it's well enough heard of to be caught by the teacher. And so what happened at first initially was I figured out the teacher would not care at all, because I mean she did her thing, and that's that shouldn't be held applicable to me, because to me I feel like this shame word isn't to her but towards her attitude. Oh well, but in fact, things started out like it. She didn't care, and she continued her lesson. But then, a very funny situation started. Well, the lesson ended before lunch, which was around um ended at 2:50 at a Monday. Monday, yep. So it was actually just the thing yesterday. So after which, she just left, and it was computer lesson. Computer lesson. I had some decent fun here. I expected to flee the scene and then pack my bags and then leave home right away when the time expired. But then it's oddly enough that I see a familiar face when I almost left. Like, the computer room isn't really in the same classroom as the one we usually use. Our classroom is at the third floor, and the computer room is at the first floor. So, in fact, after the bell rung, I had to walk up and then climb the stairs and then go back to my classroom and then take my bags and then leave. And then, like, here and then zero. Uh, yep. So, what happened was that in the corridors, where the door is over here, a, a my English teacher actually stood here, and initially I thought, oh, it was just a coincidence, or maybe she was finding someone, not me. Of course, I'm a very good student, and I think I'm not getting into any trouble. But in fact, that she, who was initially not fond of my shame comment, decided to catch me off guard by holding me back from leaving school. And then actually, she didn't say anything at first. She just told me to follow her to the teacher's office. So, in fact, now I was led to the teacher's office. Here is the first floor. And then here, it's around here, it's at the ground floor. And so I entered. She didn't say anything at first. So when I came in, she pointed me to a couch and then a chair. So I don't know what was about to happen, but I could sense that it was serious, and for serious times I would not put up my goofy personality at lessons. And well, it is indeed serious. She did proceed to sort of use an interrogation method of asking me about my words, especially this, in her lesson. And she, in fact, said that uh, I needed to provide explanation. So then I said that because she is a authoritative member, she shouldn't directly speak out for these weird, not weird, is outright dishonest act. So then she actually did not leave me, asked me to sit on the couch, and she went into her office and then proceeded to come out with a board, and then the board had a single line paper which is approximately like this, and then she also threw me a pen. It's a dark pen. Well, I knew what was about to happen. I didn't expect much anyway, but she did give me a surprise by saying that her tone was a little bit like forcing or maybe just intimidation, but regardless, I did get shocked by what she required me to do. What she insisted on was that I had to write a full diagnosis, or just like a review, a verdict, plus why and actions. Yes, basically, she took the word, the word hand for hand, and then asked me to do a complete diagnosis. Well, I'm sure that most of us in this scenario, especially a 14-year-old, will just panic. And when you as a person panics, chances are that your nerves aren't behaving as well as they might seem, and in fact you would likely to just cram up, and then stuck with words in your mouth. You can't really say anything, or even write, for fuck's sake. Oh, sorry. Or even write, which in these scenarios, she actually set a time limit for me, which was 5 minutes. I obviously didn't know what, how, or even who could have possibly done that situation, like an analysis of something you said like 2 hours ago, and then also a debrief, which, I mean, it's just intimidating or just forcing me into resign. But I persevered because knowing that how incredible my English skills are, I believe that I could have managed to escape. And well, I didn't put up the best writing or the best essay in my life. I still managed to pump approximately a whole sheet of single line paper in 5 minutes, which is in fact my absolute maximum of writing, because hands can only get so fast writing like a blizzard until you can't force it to write anything faster than that, or else it would just be unreadable, or even your mind couldn't process the data into perfectly working sentences. Especially, the funniest part is that she is a speaking advanced class teacher, and actually the main one. So I had a lot of pressure on, but I didn't. I felt really calm, actually, because if you think about the scenario, first of all, well, shame on itself is absolutely a mean word, don't use it anywhere. But for my case, I didn't actually say it on purpose. I just said it as like an expression. Yes, and she wanted a full analysis of it. Right. I felt really angry, and I wanted revenge. So immediately I started recalling my memories. I didn't actually panic at all because I mean my mental fortitude is that strong to just persevere. So actually when I recalled my memory, I found out that hey, there's an actual weakness in his wordings because like I said in the start, she is a teacher. And if you are a teacher and your job is to teach academically what is wrong or what is right, well then for in terms of academics, the biggest red flag is dishonesty. And yep, I found that weakness almost immediately when I started to write, and I knew it was a good direct approach because towards a speaking dominant teacher, obviously your density of the words would hold no accountability to the teacher at all because the teacher can perhaps channel in a lot more words in a single minute than you ever had in your entire life. That's just experience, and I didn't have that clearly because I'm not a voice guy. My voice is bad, I know. So, in fact, I thought of the direct approach, which wasn't an apology. I know almost everyone, under 5 minutes, with those stupid requirements, would just write like, oh, I'm sorry, oh, please, I won't do that again, I'll be respectful. No, that's not me. If you ever encountered the similar situation or the exact same situation, I personally reckon think that it's better for you to go full out instead of holding. Because regardless whether you are right or wrong, when you are stood against authority, everything just seems wrongful. And the only way to overcome this weakness of your own is to provide an counter argument so incredible or just like destructive to the authority that the teacher cannot physically or mentally provide any single points to counter it. And you need to make the point stick so that it can leave a mark to the teacher. And so towards that goal, I just started to pump out words about academics. Like I did an analysis of what her words meant to the students, and also I pointed out that directly is that regardless if she has committed a lot of times or not, as a role as her role stands out, she isn't allowed to speak like that anymore, and so that you can't really show off. Like I mean, this is literally showing off the disrespect to what she works because academics promote honesty, bollocks. But well, in this scenario, I just went for the biggest weakness that I saw. I didn't actually consider anything more. And what I should have considered is that I would have used sharper words. Like, she is known for roasting her students in the class for dominance. She likes that feeling of being on top of the world. But in fact, if you look at it in psychology or just from a class dynamic standpoint, it ain't good. When you have a class that is lively, energetic, and talkative, the image when she is attending the class is that basically everyone stops, becomes a doll, and then just never answers. Like she would intentionally ask some questions, and then no, no one answers. So then she would just randomly pick someone out. But the reality is that the guy who got picked out to answer doesn't know it as well. So in in like a desperation fact, she would just ask everybody to stand up until she gets the correct answer. And I mean, it's not that bad of a teacher method, honestly. But if you were to teach it like that, I think it would cause a lot of harm to how your students would perceive English as a whole. Because in that way, they aren't actually learning a language for fun or that it is interesting. They're learning it because they're being forced to. And that's the worst thing. You can't succeed in a language that you're not enthusiastic in it. Well, surely I am enthusiastic in English. But then academics single handedly rest out my fire. That's an irony. And as much as I'd like to dismiss it, I sense that more than half of my burning fire as a writer has been evaporated because the mark schemes from academics is just opposite of what it means as a human. You know, so well after which I'll just pull it back. After which, she comes up, she says time's up, and then she takes away this board with my beautifully written writing like this. Well, she had a glance. She invited me, not actually invite. I didn't notice her facial expressions being that good, anyways. She pointed me to another couch outside of the initial couch with table. And so here, it's around here. So, yep, this couch. So when she sat down and had a read, she felt like I had a point, and she did say that I have a point. So what happened was that initially she actually charged me for a misconduct behavior in class if I didn't give her the sufficient reasonings. But then I managed to do so, and so she sort of just cooled down. She realized her unprofessionalism and tried to charge me with misconduct as well. I mean, it's really weird. It's really weird because if you think about it again, what actually happened was that she was the one being unprofessional, and for me, I just pointed it out, and she was fine. I didn't even point it out actually. I just murmured. Yeah, she was fine until she wasn't. I sense that is because an ego problem. Like I don't really know who would like it when a 14-year-old kid just disobeys or rejects your idea as a teacher, right? That feel bad, and I feel bad for speaking this much anyways. But I mean, for the class dynamic, I have to, right? Um, so then the initial job interview, I'm being metaphorically here. It's not actually a job interview, but the initial interrogation here required me to write the invoice or the data. Yep. This is exactly how you would proceed in your university application, but instead, this writing isn't rushed in 5 minutes, but like countless hours or weeks, even. And then she sort of just to prove how amazing I was, she sort of just took the paper and then had a blast at it and then became calm. She realized that she did not have enough point, and what happened was that her ego was melted. And you know, one of the reasons that I felt entirely calm and no pressure at all at that stage was because I had nothing to lose except a misconductive behavior, which I mean I don't really care at all. And it's just like half one black mark. I don't know what's gonna do with my entire academic progressions, but Okay, she has the full pressure on, but she is, after all, a teacher, and for a teacher, protecting your own profession is important. So then I think she realized that she did not have a point actually, and then she went through a. I don't know. I don't want to speak about this actually. She just spoke with me like for like 10 minutes. 10 minutes. Yes, it was 4:20 when I initially packed my bags and I wanted to flee to school. And when I left there, it's like 4:40 or something. It's awkward. I hate it. Yes, but the thing was that the speaking initially included a lot about how she teaches and why I think her unprofessionalism is a real thing. And towards the end, she just sort of agreed and decided a treaty would fully end the case with a promise that she would not be this unprofessional and roast everybody anymore. In return, I would not roast her. It's not a fair deal, especially for me, because I know I can have a blast at it even more if I wanted to. But I mean, for the sake of time saving, I had to accept it. And it's also really a good time to say that she actually was a deal because I have the initiative. I successfully blocked a speaking advanced class teacher's best ability, which it was speaking. And well, the treaty for her it would be a steal. For me, I think she got a steal anyways. I didn't want to go on more because firstly it's 4:40 and I was desperate to go home. I didn't want this shenanigan anyway. But more so is that the semester is about to end. It's already June 8th, the 8th of June, when this thing happened, which was actually yesterday. And that I felt like she has found the calm presence as to the initial forcefully grabbing me to block me off school, which she had like 20 minutes prior to the treaty. That's good. Okay, but during this interrogation, what I found the most funny is that if I actually managed to screw any part up, like if, for example, if I screwed up the writing, it would give a massive blackmail and a permanent weakness towards my spot in my class. Whereas if my writing was good but my speaking lacked confidence, she would immediately know that I wasn't so sure of what my words say, right, are written otherwise, and she would gain the upper hand. This is a very weird position. Like, imagine if you play chess and you just sacrificed a bunch of pawns for massive momentum. Naturally, the defender would know that trading would be the best resort because you just have less positional advantage, and what would ultimately happen is that the defender would be up material. Yes, but okay, let's get back to the point. Right, my thread. What ultimately happened was that I actually feel like I had earned something even more than just a treaty. Is that I had officially made my university application letter be legendary. Yes, I'm gonna forcefully ask this same teacher to help me write my university application, like the recommendation letter. And I would guarantee you that it will be, in fact, more interesting than anyone in the school ever. Because I know for a fact that none of us in this age, or quite frankly, in the entire school, can directly challenge authority and actually win against it. Like, imagine coming up the counter arguments in 5 minutes and then writing it down and then also preparing the speech to fight the power. That's straight up like Lewis Hamilton bullshit. Yes. And ultimately, what this tells us in life is that when you have something you want to say, just go for it. Don't be like a coward. Don't be the ones who write the apology letter in 50